For 17 consecutive nights, Eleanor Price woke at exactly 3:33 a.m. to the sound of breathing on the other side of her bedroom door, not knocking, not trying to break in, just standing there, breathing, waiting. The shadow of 2 feet visible in the gap beneath the door, perfectly still, never moving until exactly 3:41 a.m. when the footsteps would retreat back down the hallway. Eleanor lived alone in a secure apartment building with a doorman, cameras in every hallway, and deadbolts on every entrance. No one could get in, no one should be there. But every single night at 3:33 a.m., someone stood outside her door and waited. Stay until the end, because what Eleanor discovered about who was standing there will make you check every door in your house tonight. Eleanor Price was 68 years old and had lived in the Riverside Towers apartment building for 12 years. 14th floor, apartment 14C, a modest one-bedroom with excellent security. She'd always felt safe here. The building had a 24-hour doorman, keycard access to the elevators, security cameras in every hallway, and neighbors she'd known for years. But 17 days ago, that sense of security shattered. The first night, Eleanor thought she'd imagined it. She woke at 3:33 a.m. She checked the clock immediately, to an unusual sound, breathing, heavy, deliberate breathing from just outside her bedroom door. She sat up in bed, listening, her heart pounding. The breathing continued for exactly 8 minutes, then footsteps, slow and measured, walking away down her hallway toward her front door. Eleanor got out of bed and checked her apartment. Every door locked, every window secure, the chain on the front door still engaged. No one could have gotten in. She convinced herself it was a dream, stress, her imagination, but it happened again, the next night. 3:33 a.m., the breathing, the shadow of feet visible in the 1-inch gap under her bedroom door. 8 minutes of standing, breathing, waiting, then footsteps retreating at exactly 3:41 a.m. By the third night, Eleanor was terrified but also methodical. She set up her phone to record audio starting at 3:30 a.m. When she played it back in the morning, the breathing was there, crystal clear, heavy, rhythmic, undeniably real, and underneath it, something else, a faint, mechanical hum, like electronics running. Imagine waking up every night, knowing someone is standing outside your door, just breathing, just waiting. Subscribe right now to follow Eleanor's investigation. Hit that bell so you don't miss how this ends. Eleanor went to the building management on day 4. She showed them the audio recording. The building manager, Frank, was skeptical, but agreed to review the hallway security footage. They watched the feed from the camera positioned directly outside Eleanor's door. The footage showed an empty hallway, no one approaching her door, no one standing there, no one leaving, just an empty corridor from 3:30 a.m. to 3:45 a.m. Mrs. Price, the cameras don't lie, Frank said gently. Maybe you're hearing sounds from another apartment, old buildings, pipes, air conditioning, but Eleanor knew what she'd heard. She knew what she'd seen, those shadows under her door, those feet standing motionless just inches away from where she slept. Night 5, same time, same breathing. But this time, Eleanor did something different. She took a photograph of the shadow under her door. The image clearly showed the outline of 2 shoes, standing perfectly still. She tried to open the door quickly to catch whoever was there, but by the time she unlocked the deadbolt and pulled the door open, the hallway was empty. The emergency exit door at the end of the hall was swinging shut, as if someone had just gone through it. Eleanor ran to the exit door and looked down the stairwell. Nothing, no footsteps echoing, no one visible on the stairs below, just silence. Night 7, Eleanor set up a motion-activated camera inside her apartment, pointed at her bedroom door. She reviewed the footage the next morning. At 3:33 a.m., the camera recorded everything. The shadows appeared under the door. The breathing was audible. But when Eleanor herself got up and opened the door at 3:37 a.m., the camera showed the hallway beyond as completely empty. How could there be shadows with no one casting them? How could there be breathing with no one there? Eleanor's daughter, Susan, came to stay with her on night 9. Susan was skeptical, thought her mother was experiencing some kind of stress-induced hallucination. But at 3:33 a.m., Susan heard it too, the breathing, the presence. She saw the shadows under the door with her own eyes. "Mom, what the hell is that?" Susan whispered, genuinely frightened. They opened the door together, empty hallway. They checked every apartment on the floor. All doors closed, all residents accounted for. They reviewed the building's security footage again with Frank. Nothing. The cameras showed an empty hallway at the exact time Eleanor and Susan both heard and saw someone standing there. Eleanor and her daughter both witnessed it, but the cameras see nothing. If this mystery is keeping you on edge, type "Who is it?" in the comments. Let us know your theory. On night 12, Eleanor hired a private investigator named Marcus Chen. Marcus was former FBI, specialized in stalking cases and security vulnerabilities. He came to Eleanor's apartment at midnight and set up professional-grade surveillance equipment, thermal imaging cameras, audio spectrum analyzers, motion sensors that could detect the slightest movement. At 3:33 a.m., Everything happened exactly as Eleanor had described. The breathing started. The thermal camera showed a heat signature outside Eleanor's door, the distinct shape of a human body, standing motionless. The motion sensors lit up, detecting movement in the hallway. But when Marcus looked through the peephole, the hallway appeared empty. When he opened the door, no one was there. The thermal signature vanished the instant the door opened. Marcus reviewed his equipment carefully. "This is impossible," he said. "The thermal camera is showing body heat, but there's no physical form visible to the naked eye or to the building's cameras. The audio is recording breathing, but the spectrum analysis shows it's not coming from a human respiratory system. The frequency is wrong." "What does that mean?" Eleanor asked. "It means whatever is standing outside your door every night isn't alive. It's mechanical. A recording being played. A projection being displayed. Someone is using technology to terrorize you." Marcus spent the next 3 days analyzing the equipment, the building's systems, and Eleanor's apartment. On night 15, he found it, hidden inside the smoke detector in the hallway directly outside Eleanor's apartment, was a small device, a sophisticated harassment tool used in psychological warfare. It projected a thermal signature that thermal cameras would detect, played audio through a directional speaker that made it sound like breathing coming from a specific location, and used a laser to create shadows on surfaces by projecting a shape onto the floor. The device was triggered remotely at exactly 3:33 a.m. every night, programmed to run for 8 minutes, then shut off. It was designed to drive Eleanor insane, make her question her sanity, isolate her from people who would think she was hallucinating. But who installed it and why? Marcus traced the device's wireless signal. It was being controlled from inside the building, from an apartment on the 12th floor, 2 floors directly below Eleanor, apartment 12C. The same apartment number as Eleanor's, just 2 floors down. Eleanor didn't recognize the name on the lease, David Kellerman. But when Marcus pulled up a photo from the building's security database, Eleanor's face went white. She knew him, not as David Kellerman, as David Price, her nephew, her late husband's sister's son, who'd been written out of the family will 15 years ago after he'd stolen money from Eleanor, his husband's business. David had been contesting the will for years, trying to prove Eleanor had manipulated his uncle, trying to get access to the inheritance he felt was rightfully his. When the courts ruled against him for the final time 6 months ago, he'd apparently decided to take a different approach. He'd rented the apartment directly below Eleanor's under a false name. He'd gained access to the hallway during a fire drill and installed the harassment device. His plan was to drive Eleanor into a psychiatric facility, have her declared incompetent, and take control of her estate as her closest living relative. Marcus called the police. They arrested David Kellerman Price in his apartment with all the control equipment still set up. The laptop showing the scheduling program for the harassment device, the technical schematics, emails to an accomplice discussing how long it would take to break the old woman. David was charged with stalking, harassment, attempted fraud, and elder abuse. The evidence was overwhelming. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison, with a permanent restraining order, preventing him from ever contacting Eleanor again. Eleanor finally slept through the night on day 18. No breathing, no shadows, no presence outside her door. The hallway smoke detector had been replaced, the harassment device sent to evidence lockup, and Eleanor's apartment swept for any other surveillance equipment. But the experience changed her. She installed her own security system, independent of the buildings. She learned about electronic harassment, about how technology can be weaponized against the vulnerable, and she started a support group for other elderly residents who'd experienced similar psychological attacks, helping them understand they weren't crazy, they were being targeted. Eleanor is 70 now. She still lives in apartment 14C. Sometimes, she still wakes at 3:33 a.m. out of habit, her heart racing for a moment, before she remembers that she's safe, that the breathing was never supernatural, that it was just her nephew's cruelty and desperation, weaponized through technology. But she also knows that she survived, that she didn't let the gaslighting win, that she trusted her own experience, even when everyone told her she was imagining it, and that sometimes the scariest monsters aren't supernatural. They are family members who have decided you are worth more dead or incapacitated than alive. Eleanor proved that trusting your instincts can save your life, even when everyone tells you you're wrong. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Click the video on your screen now for another story about hidden threats and survival. See you next time.